I rented the karaoke booth next to hers. What the walls heard. I didn't book the booth to sing. I booked it to hear what the walls already knew. The private karaoke bar on Pierce looks like it was invented by a memory that keeps better hours than you do. The hallway is a river of dim neon. The doors have frosted windows that pretend to be modest. The carpets swallow footsteps like accomplices. I came because of a message from my wife that used the right words in the wrong order. Team drinks turned into a karaoke thing. Might crash at the office. Don't wait up. She never says karaoke thing. She says, if she says anything, that she's allergic to small rooms where strangers try to be interesting on purpose. I gave the hostess the same name I'd used the night I gambled away my 20s, Nico, which is close enough to Nick to be forgiven if anyone asked for ID. She's the kind of woman who can fit pity into courtesy and make neither of them sting. Most people come to forget, she said, tapping at the screen. Booth 9 is open. Your neighbors are lively and almost in tune. She handed me a laminated menu that believed gin and moral clarity were synonyms. Reminder, she added, voice low, no judgments after 2. We don't have the lighting for trials. I could hear Sophia's laugh through the door of booth 8 before I saw her silhouette. It's how I knew it was her. A precise, rare sound she keeps for late, for relief, for being near competence that doesn't need to be asked twice. The frosted glass showed 4 shadows. One leaned forward with good shoulders. The others had the harmless energy of people who privately expect to be rescued from fun. The track building up to the chorus was something 80s and unapologetic about it. Booth 9 smelled like velvet that had learned to survive cologne. I closed the door and let the blackout runway of the room negotiate with my pulse. When I sat, the couch gave me just enough back to make me feel less foolish. On the screen, a cue I didn't make announced my future. Only you, then Wicked Game. Then a ballad I had never admitted to knowing. I watched the hallway through the slit where the door didn't quite meet the frame. I watched her silhouette lean in to say something only mouths can say without betraying vowels. I was halfway through one bad decision, which is to say my second highball, when he stepped into the corridor with his head tipped like he could feel the ceiling hum. Marco, the operations lead on Sophia's team. I'd seen him shepherd canvases and cables through hallways that didn't want them. He's the kind of man who can stand near married women and make no one in the room into an audience. He caught sight of me through the gap, paused, then knocked on my door with his knuckles in a rhythm that knew how not to escalate. I didn't come to audition, I said, opening. Good, he said. He didn't smile. I don't believe in surprise parties for husbands. She's in 8, she's fine, we're almost done. Fine, I said, rolling the word around like a coin I didn't want to spend. He nodded down the hall toward the tiny stained glass window that pretended not to show the lobby. If it helps, he said, I'm leaving in 10. I do not specialize in late nights that turn into early problems. He looked at me then in a way that made my spine decide whether I intended to keep it. Do you need to hit me? He asked, polite as a bartender. No, I said. I need you to explain why my wife is singing with you about never having felt this way before. He tested the door handle without looking away from me, checked that it wouldn't betray us. Because she's the kind of person who lets the harmony find her, he said. Because she can stand on the downbeat and make other people want to be on time. He tapped the laminated menu with one finger. Also because I can sing. I could have hated him if he'd been worse at being human. I could have thanked him if I'd been better at pretending to be. Is she happy? I asked. She's awake, he said. There's a difference. I'm not your enemy, Nick. The door to 8 slid open. Sophia stepped into the river of neon with a paper crown slightly askew on her hair because someone had to be ironic, and she was tired of delegating. She saw us and didn't pretend she hadn't. She put the crown in my hands as if continuity were a hat. "I booked 9, I said. "If you wanted me, ignorance has a lobby." She moved her hand toward me without touching, like she wanted to see whether the hallway could learn restraint. "Do you want to pretend you came to sing?" she asked. "Or do you want honesty while the electricity is still friendly?" "Honesty," I said, "because there are only so many stomachaches you can talk yourself out of." She glanced at Marco. He tilted his head the way men do when they're trying not to be dishonest by leaving. "I'm moving," he said. "I have an early thing. I'll tell the kids to finish the queue and find a cab without writing about it." He looked at me. "It's her story," he said. "Her husband earns a line break." He went into 8 without putting his hand on her back. He said something to the junior designer about playlists and acts 2 and 3. The door slid shut again. Sophia and I stood in a hallway, lit like a promise that had learned to keep quiet. "You hate the crown," she said. "I hate guessing," I said, and tried to hand it back to her. She surprised us both by placing it gently on my head. We stepped into 9. The room did us the favor of being larger than it looked. The mic lay on the couch like it had stories but no shame. The monitor waited. Sophia sat, then stood, then sat again, laughing the laugh that remembers you're supposed to. She took the mic and held it in the hand that writes emails no one argues with. "Did you kiss him?" I asked. The way I asked it surprised me. There was no courtroom in it, only a man who didn't want to keep walking down that hallway forever. "No," she said. "Yes," she amended, and then because she is Sophia she didn't let me flinch alone. "I kissed the idea of him in the elevator at the fundraiser last month. I didn't use my mouth. I used the part of my neck that tells me when I'm bored. Tonight I stood too close to his shoulder and liked how steady it was. Then I told myself from 3 feet closer that if I needed steadiness I could find it in a man whose heartbeat I already know." "You came to sing about it," I said. "I came to see if the night would lie," she said. "It didn't. You came anyway." She smiled then, the small, tired one that tells the room it can exhale. "That's the intrigue you were looking for, isn't it? Not whether I can be tempted, whether I want to be found." The speakers breathed life into a song at the exact wrong volume. She reached past me, turned the knob, and the room obeyed. The screen rolled the lyrics to something I didn't want to pretend not to know. Sophia stood in front of me and sang not to the room but to the notches at my throat that remember her mouth in better accents. She didn't overdo it. She let the melody announce itself and then walk around, figuring out where the furniture belonged. When the chorus came, she stepped into me. The mic brushed my jaw. Her breath tasted like ginger syrup and stubbornness. I put my hands on her hips and felt the small shiver run through her that she never let strangers see. She closed her eyes and let herself be sung into. I kissed her jawline, then the spot in front of her ear where truth parks. "Invite me when you're interesting," she said into my neck, not as a rule so much as a salvage strategy. "Not only when you're scared." "Come with me," I said, "and I'll sing badly at you until morning." It was not a metaphor. It was a plea that knew how to grin. She set the mic on the couch like a glass you're not done with. We kissed, not with apology and not with proof, but with the kind of hunger that makes rooms choose sides. I slid my palms under the line of her dress where fabric believes in patience. She pulled me by the waistband the way you might rescue a man who insists on arguing with the tide. We didn't undress. We didn't need the carpet to hire witnesses. I put my mouth on the base of her throat and felt her lean, one hand on the wall, one on the back of my head, like the world was finally tilted in the right direction. Outside in the hall, someone hit a high note bravely and missed with dignity. Inside the room, Sophia pulled away and looked at me like she just remembered a good password. "Do you still want to hit him?" she asked. "I want to thank him," I said, and waited for jealousy to audition. It didn't make the cut. I also want to take you home. Or, she said, and glanced at the door as if it had invited her to be mischievous. We can go to 8 and end the party without telling anyone we're the ending. We did. The junior designer had chosen a pop song old enough to require legal guardians. Marco was gone. His absence had a politeness to it. We collected 2 people, 2 bags, 1 forgotten scarf, and the paper crown that the room had pretended not to miss. In the lobby, I told the hostess her policy was working. She saluted me with a stubby pencil. Outside, the air had the tenderness mornings keep for people who tried late and learned something. At home, we didn't talk about the elevator. We pushed the coffee table back with the heels of our feet and kissed on the rug like our mortgage didn't have opinions. We stopped before the hour got dangerous because we have learned that sleep is not the enemy of desire. In bed, she pressed her palm flat against my chest and said a small thank you that didn't ask to be explained. I slept like a man who has been permitted to return to his own body. At 8, we met the team for teardown. Marco was there coiling cables in a way that made the day say fine. He looked at me and managed a nod that didn't audition for grace. It just was. I found I could return it without swallowing pride like bad medicine. Sophia crossed the floor with a clipboard and an invitation on her face. She touched my wrist in passing, daylight legal, and the morning behaved. In the weeks that followed, we didn't pretend temptation wasn't a room in the building. We agreed to meet in the hallway outside it. Sometimes she texted come and meant sit next to me while I do something I'm good at. Sometimes I texted come and meant remind me I'm a body before I'm a calendar. We ate before we tried to win. We sang badly enough to be loved. If you came for scandal, I owe you a worse song and a better lobby. What I have is a booth that didn't lie, a man who knew how to stand 1 respectful step away, and 2 people who decided intrigue could be the flavor of honesty instead of the currency of regret. We gave heat a room of its own and asked it to pay rent. We didn't hold trials after 2. We touched in daylight like a license renewed. And when the night asked if we had anything to add, we let the walls answer, because they had been listening longer than either of us.